The long-awaited release of some of the UFO files has come, but many are now eager for more footage, more proof, more answers. Now, of the files released, this one on your screen highly discussed, showing the moments astronauts reported seeing mysterious flashes of light during the Apollo 12 mission to the moon, all the way back in 1969. And another mystery, records from the Indo-Pacific Command showing multiple unidentified objects flying in a sort of formation through the skies, separating and coming back together again inexplicably. Though the president says he is committed to providing complete and maximum transparency, many still wondering, do these files definitively prove anything? And does the government know much more than they're really letting on? So what comes next when it comes to these files? To discuss, we are welcoming in renowned theoretical physicist, Harvard professor, head of the Galileo Project, Dr. Avi Loeb. It is always so wonderful to see you, Professor Loeb. Thanks for making the time tonight.
Thanks for having me.
And what out of this release of files is most compelling to you? What do we need to be paying the most attention to?
Well, this is the first release, and I very much hope that we will see more interesting, intriguing data, because the most exciting data with high resolution images is probably taking more time to declassify. All in all, this is important psychologically because it brings the discussion to the mainstream of public discourse and the scientific community. And I salute President Trump for bringing in this transparency. It was also encouraged by the visionary leadership of Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, who is requesting 46 videos from the Pentagon. Hopefully they will be released in the next batch within the coming month. There were, as you pointed out, those images from the moon that showed some blue lights above the horizon. And those are actually this evening calculated that are very likely due to cosmic rays, energetic particles, because we see the same blue points of light also in parts of the film from the Apollo mission that was not behind the lens. So we see the same phenomenon. It must be associated with cosmic rays. Also, the Artemis 2 astronauts took thousands of images of the dark side of the moon, and all they saw are 6 flashes from the impact of meteoroids on the surface, rocks on the surface, but nothing else, nothing anomalous. So I would argue there is no evidence for UFOs around the moon because we have much better cameras that the Artemis 2 astronauts were using than 50 years ago during the Apollo mission. With respect to the other images and the documents that we see, it's intriguing that all the way back to 1946, 47, there were high-level officials discussing objects they cannot identify. This star-like object that we see on the screen cannot be easily interpreted because there is a lot of information that is redacted in the image, but it could also be just a result of diffraction pattern within the camera. That would be my inclination because the orientation of this star does not change as it moves across the sky.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I want to revisit cosmic rays because, Professor, you just wrote an article, you posted it a couple hours ago, saying that we should not mistake cosmic rays for UFOs. Tell me more about this. What are cosmic rays? Why do they cause what appears to be sort of anomalous spots or lights on camera and video? And do you believe that many of the objects that we're seeing in these videos were actually just cosmic rays?
No, my statement has to do with the images from the Apollo missions to the moon. And cosmic rays are energetic particles that arrive to us from the Milky Way galaxy that we are embedded in. There is a sea of these particles moving near the speed of light, very energetic. And the moon has a flux of those particles that is 200 times bigger than we find here on the surface of Earth, simply because the atmosphere of the Earth and the magnetosphere of the Earth are blocking those particles from arriving to the surface of Earth. But the moon doesn't have an atmosphere or a magnetosphere, so these are much more common over there, and they can easily explain the blue dots of light that we see in the Apollo images. In fact, Buzz Aldrin reported about flashes of light within the capsule as he was traveling towards the moon. And indeed, those could also be produced by cosmic rays. So there is clear evidence that that's the explanation, because we see the same blue lights also in parts of the film that was not behind the lens. And so clearly it has nothing to do with the sky that was imaged. It's more to do with particles entering into the camera. And other phenomena here on Earth were identified as UFOs. And for example, photographic plates from the Palomar Sky Survey show transient sources of light in them, but those could also be produced by cosmic rays coming in straight perpendicular to the photographic plate, and that's why they are transient. And I did some calculation that illustrates that the numbers are similar. So the claim was that these transient sources back in the 1950s could not have been due to human-made satellites, because the Sputnik was launched only later. And but on the other hand, these cosmic rays could be a very good explanation for those points of light. And in fact, you would expect them to anti-correlate with the solar wind. The sun ejects some plumes of hot gas every now and then that are called coronal mass ejections. And when they cross the Earth, they actually suppress the cosmic rays. And indeed, they see these transient points of light in the photographic plates being reduced when there is a lot of activity from the sun. So all in all, I would say there is no clear evidence for UFOs near the moon or in the 1950s as transient sources in photographic plates.
Yeah, I appreciate that context so much. What about the mystery, the records from the Indo-Pacific Command showing multiple unidentified objects flying in a sort of formation through the skies? We see them separate and come back together as well. We were looking at this video as we were doing the introduction to this segment. What is your take on that particular video?
Well, those are very intriguing, and I think the people within the Pentagon or the intelligence agencies should be concerned about these potentially being produced by adversarial nations. Maybe these are drones, balloons, who knows what they are. But the point is, some of this material must have been classified because of the inability of members of the Pentagon to interpret them. And that's a matter of national security. That's why it's a serious matter. And we need to invest more effort in figuring out what these objects in the sky are. Presumably, there are also some objects over the United States, but they don't show them to us because it shows the vulnerability of the intelligence or the defense system of the U.S.
Professor Avi Loeb, always fascinating to speak with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.